Let's go out, we'll take no prisoners.
Welcome back to episode 4 of Unleashed, a guide to indie producing with me, Avi Federgreen. And today I'm super lucky to have the fantastic, talented, wonderfully dressed, always, great hair, and she can sew, knit, she makes films, she makes TV, she's everything. From Vancouver today, please meet Karen Lam.
Hi. I saw like when you say unleashed, I feel like we should be in a cage match. Like I feel
Woo! Mike Boone, let's make it happen.
I'm already on the case, Avi. I'm on the case.
Awesome. So, welcome, Karen. It's awesome to have you. You know, I've been chasing after you for months to finally get you on here, and I know you've been really busy finishing up some projects. But thank you for joining us. And you know, here we spend this 45 minutes an hour and we talk about the industry, where how you got in, what it was like back in those days versus what it is like today, and the challenges that we have, and why we do what we do. And so why don't we start with, you know, going back a little ways. How did you succumb to getting into the industry?
Oh, I always say failing upwards. And by the way, thank you for having me on. And I apologize for the chasing around. It makes it sound like we're in Pac-Man, and I'm like, you know, that sort of thing. But it has been busy, and I appreciate this walk down memory lane. Like I almost want to feel like, okay, back in the day when we chiseled film, you know, into the caves, and when we were doing our bull paintings, right? It feels that long ago. I think for both of us, I'm quite sure we started analog and moved into digital. Is that right? Because my first film as a producer was on Bolex. You know what I mean? It was a 16. Basically, I always laugh when I hear kids today when they're on their editing equipment, and they're like, they don't understand that a bin really was a real bin, and when you lost a frame, it was somewhere in the shag rug that had fallen because you had cut it and spliced it. You know, like it was there was actual film frames. And so, you know, in this digital world where we are, things have gone a long way from where we started. I started as a lawyer, by the way, and the failing upward was basically not succeeding in any of the career choices that were my first stops. And this is where I am. It's like film is here for you as a family of carnies, waiting to take you into its open arms and bosoms. And now basically,
you started. I mean, you've directed films, you've produced films, you've written a number of properties that you've shot. What is it about this business, this creation of content or film or whatever, that really jazzes you?
It's still the storytelling. It's still my love for film to begin with, because otherwise there's no other masochistic reason for continuing onward with it. You know, there's still sitting in, like, whether you're making the film or you're in the audience, and it's that moment when the curtains come, you know, and the screen opens and it says feature presentation, and you're in this story. And I think that that's still going to be my first love. And it's the thing that keeps me coming back again and again, I think, whether it's writing it, you're right, directing, or just, you know, raising the money and trying to produce the thing. It's that.
And you're also mentoring some future filmmakers of tomorrow, similar to what I do, but you're doing it in Vancouver. And, you know, I think it's important that we're passing on what we've learned and what we know, because if we don't help these people, there will be no future in our industry, right?
I absolutely agree. So, you know, I've had some incredible mentors. I wouldn't be anywhere if I didn't have people basically taking me under wing and sharing their hard, you know, honestly, I think about Rachel Talalay, who basically has been my directing mentor for years and years, and a good friend as well. I think about all the early bosses I had, you know, from Wayne Sturloff and Tim Gamble at Thunderbird, you know, like just men and women who literally said, you're worth my time,
Right.
and all your stupid questions are welcome.
Right.
And basically, and also warning bells and alarm bells. Like what I get from Rachel is preparing me for bigger budget projects where, oh, that is the politics. Like I think that if I didn't have her tutelage and I was thrust into some of the bigger shows that I've been on, I'd be like, oh my God, is this me? I suck. You know what I mean?
Right.
As compared to this is the industry. This is what you're expecting.
Right. And a lot, again, as I mentioned previously, you're directing, somewhat producing and writing your own projects. And you've also been a gun for hire on some stuff for Sci-Fi Channel, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and other people. And how I first met you was way back, well, not too far back, but you were screening a film at the Women's Film Festival in Vancouver at the Van City Theater.
Right.
And it was a film that you had made that I was completely enamored with, and thought it was you were a visionary. Like I would say that how you see film and how you see storytelling is quite unique, comparatively speaking, to the typical filmmaker that exists in our country, where you're making stuff that people, it's different. It's not the same old, right? And you're really coming from a place of super creativity, super originality, and I really admire you for doing that. And where does your ideas come from?
Probably rejection from everything else that's conventional. You do try to. I don't think I ever set out to be an ostrich. You know what I mean? Like I thought it'd be like I'm one of the horses in the stable, and then you realize, oh, I don't function like any other horse in this stable, and that's okay. Like it's again, early on, I was in a Women in the Directors chair with Carol Whiteman's program, and I had Kari Skoglund as my directing mentor. She was our program leader. And she actually said to me very early on, this was after I'd done just one short film and she'd watched it. She said, there's two types of directors in this world. And she said, there's shapeshifters and auteurs. And you're an auteur. And I did not know what that meant. I made one short film and I was like, does that mean I don't have a career? Like all my thinking was just, oh shit, now I'm unemployable. Great.
Right.
But she said she was a shapeshifter, and she said her shape-shifting allows her to be dropped into any TV series or any project and basically take on what needed to be done. Right. An auteur, she said, is someone who gets hired because they have such a distinct voice and vision that that's what you're hiring. You're not necessarily going to put them on episode 6 of on a season 4 of a show, because that episode will not look like anyone else's episode. Right. But, just to figure out where you are and what lane you're actually in. Mm-hmm. So I think that it was advice that I didn't understand at the time. And it took almost 10 years to actually circle back to that advice and say, oh, that is actually what I do. And so, and it's been, and also having Rachel Talalay as a mentor, she worked with John Waters and, like New Line for years and years before she started her own directing. I think she always has recognized for me just to lean into the weird. I always tried to tamp down the weird, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Oh my God, I want to be employed. I want to fit in. And at some point you're like, okay, I will never be that. I'll probably always be a bit strange as far as where I go with a story or how I tell something. And it's literally balancing off being I just went to see Wes Anderson's film. So it's how Wes Anderson am I? How specific is my voice versus how accessible do I want to be this time? And so that's the bigger balance that I have.
Yeah, because let's be honest, most of the stuff that's being made in this country is dry toast.
No, it employs all our friends. So
it does, and but honestly, the stuff that normally gets funded is stuff that doesn't really sell internationally as much as it could, as if they pick different projects and things like that. And I think there are some really great filmmakers out there who have really amazing original ideas who are having a hard time getting their films made because the traditional funding system doesn't work for indie film per se.
Mhm.
And it's become, since COVID, it's become harder and harder, obviously, to raise money.
Yeah.
And so we're all forced into making low budget feature films for the
Mhm.
most part under, you know, $400,000 Canadian or even much less than that.
That's where I am. Yay.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Well, you and I are both of the same thing. Like we're making
Yeah,
them for under $200,000, right? Or 250.
that's about
Um,
it. Yeah.
and honestly, like I'm fine with that. Um, less cooks in the kitchen. We get to be collaborative, creative, different. We're sort of like the nerds of the film industry, I like to say sometimes,
Yes.
which because we go on our own way. We walk that road,
Yeah.
and I know that you've been closely working in some of the new technology that's going on, like the wall.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that technology and how it's changed, if it's changed your idea of how you write scripts now and direct?
Oh yeah, like so the feature that I'm that I'm in post-production forever on, and I promise it is going to be done. I think at the end of this month. That's the
Cool.
new that it's a moving target, but yes, end of the month. We shot almost I'd say 80% of it on the volume wall, and we used miniatures, and it's old and new technology all at once. So we did have Gary Young did our miniature design, and we worked with Loomis Stage on the wall, and it was basically a road movie, driving movie. So it's set in 1976 Vegas. So already you've got lots of issues, and then of course there's a paranormal element to
Right.
it. It's half biblical, and yeah, and so back when I wrote the script in 2014, it sounds like forever.
Mhm.
It was sort of this weird thing that I'd written, and it just sort of sat there because I thought, am I going to process trailer it? Like, how is it? It was impossible to make what I had in mind.
Right.
There's like a car chase in it that would be impossible because I wanted all these like old like a F1 model Ford. I wanted a Mustang. Like it would have been a car chase that would be impossible. It is now done on miniatures. So,
Right.
but all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So I learned a lot in the process because one, the wall is an evolving technology as well. So when we did it, it was literally 1 year ago today. And from what I understand, I just talked with Loomis Stage because I was like, I want to keep doing this. It was a lot of fun. It's their technology is already gone differently, like meaning the pixels are smaller. So things that we're dealing with right now, as far as making sure that, because if you're shooting on digital, it's going to basically show all those little pixels. And so how
Right.
much you can actually see, it's
Right.
fine if you've got a driving scene and an MOW. We're scaling this to be a feature film.
Right.
So of course that when you blow it up, you're going to see everything. And so
Right.
thanks to, we're working with Infinity Post as well. So Gary Shaw is doing my coloring, and it's just making sure that everything actually, you've got like just, yeah, it's the technology that we're fighting, but also it's a new tool for us.
And
And
maybe, can you, for all those people that don't know what the wall is, can you just briefly tell the audience what the wall is?
the wall is like the wall. It sounds like the Pink Floyd
Wall.
thing. It's all in all is just another
Yeah.
brick in the wall.
Yeah.
Do not touch wall. Could stick to skin. It is literally a big LED screen that's almost 360 wraparound, and it's like a green. I'd say it's much better than green screen because if you've got a car scene, all of the reflections are going to be there. It's not going to be like green spillover. It's literally you have something to react to. You've got driving plates. Like for us, we also had. We completely Alice in Wonderland it. So we built sets that were small, and then we filmed them, and then we put them up on the wall, and then put our actors into that. So it was very Alice in
Nice.
Wonderland. That was big, but then small, and then small again, and so it was kind of
Nice.
awesome.
That's cool.
So I learned, like, I think that that's something that we can actually do if you can actually. It's not a cheap technology, but for us in indie land, it is a way of doing something that, like, those car sequences would have cost me, I think, millions of dollars, and it was literally like a big hand comes down. I feel like Monty Python, like big
Yeah.
hand comes down and moves the car, and we had cars that we were doing that as part of our BTS end credit roll, where you can see it on a coffee cup balancing. We're making doot doot noises, and so
Nice.
that was part of it.
Nice.
So it just made me love film again, I have to say. There are challenges with the wall, of course, just because, there's a thing called vertigo. So when you're in a moving plate and it's like, because I put a lot of action, good and bad, into those plates. So that means that they're like, as actors and me standing in front of the wall, I was like, at some point I was like, oh, going down. So there's that as well. You don't think you're going to get vertigo, you get vertigo. So.
And obviously the post-production process is much more significant too, right?
It's like post is pulled up to prep. So because in order to get the wall ready, we weren't buying plates. Like I bought one of those 360 cameras, like the ones for Google Maps, and we rented a car and my DP and I went down to Vegas and we stuck the little thing, like the camera on a rental car, and we just drove around getting plates. And so the prep becomes like your post-production gets pulled into your pre-production. So there's a lot of things workflow wise that I would have done differently, probably just to organize it better, just because, my God, all those moving plates, you're shooting, like you're stitching together that 360 to put up on the wall, that has to get color corrected. So now you're doing post in prep. So it's a lot of moving pieces, literally. And it would not be my choice to do as a first film. That's what I say. This is my 5th feature, so I feel like, and even then, it was a steep learning curve.
But do you think, obviously shooting it with this technology is much different than traditional being on locations or in a studio set or whatever. Yes. There's something magical about being on set in a real location, using real practical effects instead of visual effects and things like that, in the analog days that you and I know so well.
Yes.
It's not that I'm scared of the technology, but I just find the pureness. I mean, I wish I could shoot all my movies on film. Like that's just.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
That's how I am. But I just really appreciate what goes on set when we're shooting a feature, especially in our world where we're shooting them in like 15 days or whatever, 20 days, and for no money. And that we're in a physical house because we can't afford to build a set or whatever. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you're sitting around and starting in pre-prep and you're really thinking about, well, how you're going to do all that. And I know you do that in a much bigger way when you're using the wall, because obviously you're shooting all these plates and all that stuff that's going to wind up on the wall before you actually can start bringing in actors and everybody else. But the pureness of how we make film, a lot of us, not all of us, but some of us, that goes back to our roots, I love, and I hope that I get to do that for the rest of my life. It's magic. And when I was doing Home Free and being around 20 collaborators who all had great ideas, and really we worked as together as I've ever worked in my life. We all, at the end of our shoot and the last day, and we called picture up, everybody was crying. That's so magical about and making a film.
And congratulations, it's doing so well. And I was privileged to be able to see it on an earlier, before you had everything locked in, and it was fantastic. So I'm really proud of you.
What do you like now that you've done both sides of the coin now? Mm-hmm. And I know you want to go back and do more projects on the wall. Which do you prefer?
Oh, there's always live action from just basically being in the environment. If I could afford to basically have real trucks, that'd be great. You know what I mean? Like that would be, to me, because I come from a semi-documentary background, there's something about a real location, like you were saying, that I'm not one what the wall forces me to do, and I don't love, is the shot listing, the prepping and the planning and the previs, which has always, to me, been a little bit, bless Hitchcock, for his, wonderful storyboards. I am not that person. I tend to be like a walk out, take a walk with my DP around and start planning our shots basically right before the shot happens. I like that. I was happy to hear that Soderbergh does something similar where you're blocking, but you're also walking around saying, this is where the camera goes, and finding that shot. I love that. And that's what you get in that sort of semi-documentary way of working, where because it's a real location, you can shoot from any direction. Whereas in a wall, you really have to plan a little bit, because if I didn't shoot it, I didn't get the plate, or I didn't plan it, it's not happening. So, because otherwise it's just a screen. I think there's balances to each way. Like when you're on the wall, you almost have to lean into the fact that it's a little uncanny. It's going to be closer to Wes Anderson than it's going to be to Soderbergh. You know what I mean? Like you are absolutely going to lean into a slightly weird world, just because things will be, as close as you get to reality, it's not going to be. And it fit the film and the script best in that case. But we have my partner, Kate Kroll, and I basically started a new company, Black Opiate, and we have a small slate of films, and they're closer to the grindhouse stuff. And so there's, a couple that we could shoot on the wall, but there's stuff that I actually just want to go back out into the field and just do with real people and real, not that my actors on Armageddon Road were not real people, but I mean, I just want to be in the wild again, like with a real set. And
listen, you have that Western idea that I would love to make with you, right?
My love for Western. So this thing is actually, we actually have a new Western idea, because I'm still dead set on making like a Sergio, like spaghetti Western horror of some sort. And this is, I think I've got one. So if so, we'll let you know. But in my mind,
the idea of going and shooting a Western, I mean, some of my favorite films of all time are Westerns, and turning it into a genre movie makes it even more delicious to me. Right?
Yeah. And it's back to that 70s filmmaking. Like that was truly a seminal time for me. Between 70s and 90s is sort of where films, it's obviously when I grew up. So of course that's always going to be the pinnacle. I actually had the nicest compliment from an American producer who said, he looked at my work and he said, "You're more indie American than the indie Americans are now." Like I was like, oh my God, I'm in a petri dish. But I'm like, but it's fine.
It's true though. Like, I mean, even I look at a movie like Curse the Willow Song. I mean, it's black and white. I mean, how many people are daring enough to shoot a feature film in black and white? I mean, my God.
Well, but I was so inspired at that point by like the old Japanese horror, like those samurai films and the no theater and that. And so it depends on what you're watching, right? And so, yeah, I was just right now going back to some, like, Willow was just that was a film, and thank you for taking it. But Willow, like Curse of Willow Song, to me was just like a kind of a love letter to some of my favorite films. And so that it was going back to your growing up roots in that way. Right. And so that's really cool. But in this case, it's sort of like each time it's like you're just falling in love with the type of filmmaking and it, that it could be. And I'm sort of leaning toward grindhouse right now, which I'm really quite like, but proper grindhouse, not,
like who would you compare the stuff that you're kind of keen on
right now?
Well, like the stuff, the kind of grindhouse stuff, like is there a filmmaker or a film that is your sort of inspiration for grindhouse?
Well, I mean, what I just did now apparently feels a lot closer to like Wes Anderson, Linklater, and some sort of like, but it's also biblical. And so it's hard to say like exactly, but I did actually rewatch, and I hadn't for ages. I went back to watch Planet Terror, and I know that's a grindhouse of a grindhouse, but I'd forgotten like, I don't understand why Rodriguez doesn't have the love that Tarantino has. Like, as I watched Death Proof, and I could barely get through it. Yeah. And then I rewatched Planet Terror, and I was like, now this man understands what it's supposed to be, because I was thinking about like everyone redoing things like, Toxic Avenger and all the films that are like getting redone now. And I was like, are they going to take the grindhouse out of it? Because when back in the day, when we were like watching these things on video and, renting them or actually going to the drive-in to watch them, we weren't trying to make shitty films. You know what I mean? If they ended up not doing as well as they should have, it's basically we weren't being ironic about it. It was just, that's as good as we could make it on the budget that we had. You know what I mean? It's like, so I was watching a few documentaries on it and thinking to myself when I was rewatching, it's like, we weren't trying to screw up. Like we didn't want to we're trying to make the film look as good as possible. We weren't trying to make it look cruddy. That's where we thought the camera should go. So that's what I mean is like, there's the sincerity in it that I like now. I don't want to do it with a tongue in cheek. Like I'm, I actually want to lean into the fact that I'm doing the best thing I can. I'm not trying to make it like cruddy like, haha, look at me
Right.
doing this not great thing. It's
I mean,
yeah.
I look at, and I don't know if you've seen this film. I bet, knowing you, you probably have. But Barbarella.
Oh yes, of course.
So, I mean, to me, I look at films like that, or A Boy and His Dog. Man and His Dog. I think it was with, oh my God, who was in Miami Vice?
Don
Don
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah.
Don Johnson.
Well,
Sorry.
I think it was a Man and His Dog.
Okay.
But I mean, Barbarella, for me, when we talk about, Grindhouse, I mean, that's kind of the beginning of Grindhouse, isn't it?
In that zone, I remember like just even watching like old Andy Warhol, like those experimental like that. I remember renting those things and going, what the hell is this? And I remember seeing the first time, like I think in high school, I'd rented Eraserhead. And by the time the sperms come raining down, I was like, what is happening? Like, and I thought, can you make films like this? And so I think that's what I'm sort of if not exploring direct films, that are there, it's sort of like going back to that time in my life where everything was possible, that you could make films and it could be like this. And it would be like, we were given like X number feet of film. Someone found like, it was always, remember short ends, like,
short
like
ends,
someone would have
totally.
shot something great. And you're like, well, we had all these short ends. And that meant that you could only like, you couldn't let the video just keep running the way you can in digital, like take a pee break, run it, just reset it. It's like, we have short ends that are 30 seconds long. This is all you can shoot for. And so it was always that. And so yeah, I miss my analog days, and I don't miss the call from the lab. Used to drop it off at the lab, and then there'd be that call that says, "There's a sparkle on it, and we don't know if we can get." You're like, "Oh my god, my film is ruined!" Like it's.
I did.
Yeah.
I worked on a show where the lab completely botched half a day's worth of work in the soup, as we used to call it, the soup.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had to reshoot insurance claim and the whole thing. I mean,
God.
But I mean, I even look at a movie like Dusk to Dawn, which was, like a batshit crazy movie with Clooney and Thomas Cheech, Cheech, and crazy. Starts as a road movie. Next thing you know, boom. You're into vampires and batshit crazy stuff. I mean, but we don't make I just find it interesting that we really don't make the Wes Anderson, the Grindhouse, the obscure kind of stuff that they make in the U.S. and outside in Germany and whatever, Japan. I've started releasing Japanese movies here in North America because hardly ever gets seen unless at a festival.
Right.
It's mostly genre, really weird stuff. And I'm actually going to be producing with a Japanese company some indie Japanese genre movies here in Ontario.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That is awesome.
This amazing director named Kenichi Yugama. And he's made like, I don't know, a dozen genre movies, and they're all super, super low budget. Like he shoots them in, he says, I don't need anything more than 12 days. And there's
a velocity that I like, that you're just going and you have to find the best angles. You have to find something interesting. You have to be clear about what you're doing. And it's not just hosing it down. It's really, I like that way of filmmaking myself. I don't.
Yeah, I do too. But we don't see that really here.
Yeah, maybe we have. I wonder whether or not our funding system has, in some ways, just slowly killed our creativity. Because truthfully, as Canadians, we have an incredible history of making great genre films.
Yeah.
It has gone back to, it was always parallel and in a strange other track than what was traditionally financed. And so, they're made in, like, I think about Guy Madden's early films and, all of that. It's made somewhere where we had no money, we had long winters, and we just had some friends. And it was a chance to go out and tell just crazy stories. Whereas now I think because there's so little money in the system, it feels like every program is geared toward you doing a promo video. Like instead of making a cool short film, so many of our programs are set towards making a proof of concept. What do you do with a proof of concept? Like honestly, it's not a proof that you can actually tell a story A to B to C. It's a proof of something or other, like that you can string a bunch of scenes together. And you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I never quite understood making trailers. Like just
I'm
make the damn film.
very anti proof of concept because when you show it to somebody like a distributor or a broadcaster or whatever, and their response could likely be, "Is this as good as it's gonna get?"
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're not using the DP you probably want, you're not using the actors you probably want. The script hasn't been really developed to where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're not shooting in the right location, whatever. You're just trying to
Mm-hmm.
show that you can actually make something. And I
Yes.
think if I always recommend doing a lookbook or a pitch deck to show your vision, as opposed to doing something like a proof of concept where most people will fail when showing that to anybody of significant.
Yeah. And I still miss just making a good short film, you know what I mean? Like with what you've got, because then I can see that, oh, you know how to, like, I just want to know, can you tell a story from like that actually begins and ends within a certain
Yeah.
amount of time?
And those
And
were the days of Bravo Fact and all that stuff when we could actually get money to actually make short film, right?
yeah, I started because the NSI, the National Screen Institute, had the drama prize. And I would never have taken that scary leap from producing into writing and directing if I hadn't gotten the drama prize. And that was the thing that basically put me like, it gave me a short film that let people see what it actually was. And it got me into programs like Women in the Director's Chair. It got me my first feature through telefilm, but, and, you know, then I fell gloriously flat on my face. That's awesome. That's a totally different story. But, you know, I feel like just having that, like, again, I miss those shorts. And actually, I was very lucky this year, or at least last year, I guess. I won the Directors Guild green light for established
Hmm.
directors. So I did get that. So I got to make another short film, which I rarely get to
You
do.
did it at the wall too, right?
No, that one actually we shot on it was a location, but it was like a built set. So there's a bunch of sets that were all in, it's weird. It was in the old Sears building, like at
Wow.
Lougheed Mall, like in the like so it was really weird. It was hottest days of summer. I just filmed Armageddon Road and I literally had a month turnaround to get my short film done. And we found the location. It had some standing sets that we just redressed.
Right.
And otherwise it would just been really, really challenging.
Right.
But we premiered at the Portland Horror Festival and I have not, you know, for various reasons, I haven't left the country for quite some time, but I did go down to Portland just for a quick jaunt there and back. And it was just really nice. I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for our people, meaning the horror crowd. To me, horror knows no boundaries or borders. And I feel like our people are just our people. So I went down and came
why
back.
horror? Like, I mean, you know, people can say or will say, well, you know, she only knows genre. She doesn't know drama. She doesn't know, you know what I mean? And you become pigeonholed, right? Which, I mean, I was that. I was doing nothing but drama until I started realizing that I wasn't making any money making drama, and that even though I never really went out of my way to watch horror films, I realized that if I want to make any money in this business, then that's the stuff I have to make. But what I was finding is, and this isn't you because that's why I love you so much, is that the scripts were mostly awful.
Yeah, it's the tropes.
They
Tropes.
weren't, and especially since the digital age started, because anybody could go get a digital camera, and make a film. But you know what always lacked in these genre movies was the storytelling. Like just wasn't, there was no meat on the bone, right? And now, as I'm sure you're aware, the genre audience is probably the most intelligent audience there is.
Yeah.
They know they hate being duped when it
Yes.
comes to storytelling.
Yes.
They don't need to see they don't need, and they don't care about how many people you kill in 90 minutes. They
No.
don't care about blood splatter or any of that stuff. They want to be scared shitless. That's what they want.
Yeah.
And I think the only people that I've really seen really come to the table like that is Ari Aster and Jordan Peele, who are, in my mind, two
Oh yeah.
incredible storytellers.
Yeah.
but in Canada, I mean, I would say you are probably in that, in, you know,
No, thanks.
a philosophy of making genre films is that, and but there's not many.
Yeah, I think people unfortunately look at it as a stepping stone to doing real films. And I remember when I started, there was a lot of, I remember someone saying, "Are you worried that you're going to be pigeonholed and you won't?" I was like, "Why? Because there's a hidden rom-com in me." There really isn't a hidden rom-com in me. Thank you.
But what
So
about a genre hidden rom-com?
there might be, you know what? My latest film might have a little bit more. It's darkly comedic, and there is a little bit of romance, although in a weirder way. But I guess to me, I always hated the disrespect that horror has gotten or genre has gotten, which is somehow that you're somehow. Like I remember going to a big festival, and it was a genre festival, and I was talking to a Japanese distributor, and she had said to me, "Are you worried at basically being too smart for your genre?" And I thought, oh, that's a horrible thing to say, because going to these I think I'd forgotten, because during the pandemic we weren't really traveling to like festivals and being with the audience.
Right.
I'd forgotten like just how passionate and how excited and how loyal and just how smart those audiences actually are, and that horror, like, it was really nice to be in a grouping of horror shorts that night at Portland.
Right.
It was like every single film it was not the same. They were all very different. There was everything from really arty horror, comedy horror, just something was different, and it wasn't blood splatter at all. It just, genre when you see it. Do you know what I mean? And like, now that you've been distributing and working in the genre, fantastic films. Like, I hate even calling it horror, even though I'm happy and proud to be a horror director.
Right.
It's like it encompasses so much more than just 5 stupid teenagers get killed in a terrible camping accident. You know what I mean? Like it's not that. It's not just the same thing. There's so many ways of telling a story, and I always go back to horror literature again and again. It's funny. I was in Powell's books, and so you see what I was reading. It's Christmas and Other Horrors. So I love short horror as well as just literature. And all of them are just different. It's like a box of truffles, and you don't know what the ginger one is. That one exploded. That one's not a great one. You know what I mean? You end up with just variety and storytelling that's a little magical, a little surreal. There's the paranormal. There's the spook thing. There's things that give me the crawlies. You're just reading it and you're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. And some of them are like, oh, okay, that hit home in a certain way. There's so much more. And why is that not drama? Why is that not, like, isn't that what storytelling is? I don't know.
Well, I mean, listen, some of the most famous genre movies ever made, like Amityville Horror or Exorcist or whatever, those are, they don't make those kinds of films anymore. And those are mostly drama, but scary drama, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't make that kind of stuff anymore, which is The Omen is another good
my God, Rosemary's Baby. Like, I remember
Rosemary's
reading
Baby, which a lot of people reference. I find interesting in pitches. It's Rosemary's Baby meets whatever, and then you look at the film and you go, "What? What part of this film is Rosemary's Baby?" Like,
no, it's and I sorry, I always do the. At least you got a haircut. And she's like, "It's be down so soon." Anyway, I love that moment. But it's so much drama. Like, there was so little. It was just dread. All the way through that film, it's just dread. And you could look at it as, is it a gaslighting film? Is it like, what is it? Is it just the terror of reproduction? And I remember reading The Omen when I was in high school, and just digging up the jackal, you know what I mean, like digging up the grave and that sort of stuff. And back then it was like, you didn't need to see a lot. It was always just in there was those moments that get highlighted. Like, I remember watching The Changeling. Do you remember? Like, it was shot in Vancouver. Like, it's so like films like that. It was like there was just they were prestige films. They just had a darker side to them. And somehow now it feels like a lot of the horror that we're seeing can be really cheap. And I think that, it's a challenge. And I know that our funding system is just not great with genre. Like, I don't know that they know how to read it either. And I feel like we're kind of trying to, and I know this for myself, when you're actually trying to apply for funding, like
Yeah.
traditionally,
Yeah.
you're actually bending yourself in knots trying to figure out what the jury is going to like.
Yeah.
And you actually start making bad, piss poor creative decisions because you're trying to bend into whatever it is. So I can't blame the system entirely, because we as filmmakers are also screwing over our own creatives, because it feels like I am doing now bad things to the project because I'm actually trying to anticipate what they want. And now I'm making bad decisions.
But
and
it's interesting, like this round of regional projects, 5 or 6 genre films were picked.
Yeah.
So I would hazard to say, and I don't know any of the people that got picked. I looked at the list and I didn't recognize any names or whatever, but they don't really understand good genre from bad genre when it comes to the jury and stuff like that. So I'm kind of, interested to see what these films end up turning out to be. I would say that many of the films that are Canadian that go to Frontiers and present at Frontiers, I would say 90% of them never get made.
Interesting.
And they get told to elevate their budgets and their pitches to be like 3 million to 5 million. And I'm going, what?
Why?
You're
don't do that. You can't sell it.
You can't sell it. You can't.
And you can't make it back. More importantly, you're basically, if you and I put our films out there, and if we made $1 million, $1.5 million, we're in profit.
Yeah.
For some of these films, if you made it for 2 and you sold it for 1.5, you're in deficit. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just simple business. And I get that as well. Like if you need to, like, say the market wants to buy a screwdriver, and they're going to pay $10 for a screwdriver, but it's going to cost you $12 to make the screwdriver. You have to rethink your screwdriver. Your screwdriver cannot be made for more than $2 or $5 if you want to be a profitable screwdriver maker.
Right.
And so it's that sort of thing. You have to kind of balance it off. And we're still in, I don't understand. Like, we're still chasing names. Why? We should be building our own, we have the talent.
I've always said genre, you don't need a name in your film at all.
No.
It's got to be really great concept and great execution. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. And names don't sell in genre. It doesn't matter. It's got to be good. That's it.
And we built our own star system based on our films. Like, to me, it's always been amazing when I talk to some some of the podcasts that I've been on, and people have seen some of my earlier films, and for them, the actors that were in that have, like, they're again sealed in amber. They have not gone further, and I kind of always appreciate the fact that they think that, like, their depiction in my film, despite this poor person's like going off and sailing into like rosy sunsets and doing really big films, they're like, whatever happened to that person? I'm like, oh, she has a stellar career. And they're like, oh, in my head, that's the character. And I always feel really blessed to have that. Like in some of these horror audience fans' minds, that's who they are. And I think that's really cool.
I mean, now we're coming close to the end, but I wanted to go back to something that you said earlier about how much you like Wes Anderson. And I love him too, and I've seen his new movie, and I think it's could be his best movie he's made.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about making that kind of, because that's not genre.
And yet it is. It's so weird.
Right. It's not traditional genre, right?
No, it isn't traditional genre, but again, he is his own genre. Like, right. I mean, I envy his career in the fact that he is just so specific that you're like, that's the sort of film that we want to see. Like, you want to be in the, someday, like my goal in life is like, you don't want to be like, I don't need to be for everyone. I just need to be for some specific people. And that would be my happiest place. And again, seeing like a Wes Anderson film, it's like, everyone who is there knows and loves what he does, and they're just excited to see what he does next. And that would be the best career.
And I'm excited to see what you're going to do next, because I'm a huge fan of yours. And I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day, considering all the things that you're trying to finish your film and everything else, to talk to me. I have huge respect for you. Hope that we can make a film together someday.
Yes.
I watch everything that you make. I pay attention to everything that you're doing. And I salute you for having the intestinal fortitude to just really go for it. And I'm a big fan. So, but thank you for being on this
Thank you.
episode. And thank you all out there for listening to Unleashed. This is episode 4 with Karen Lam, and we'll see you next time with another guest to talk about the film and TV industry.
Thank you, Avi.
We look like $1 million. Every time they look at us, we'll blow them out.